What are the 10 bourbons that I recommend for beginner bourbon drinkers? Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Nathan here with the Everyday Drinker, bringing you guys a brand new video. Today, we're going to do the ultimate bourbon buying guide for beginner bourbon drinkers. I'm going to recommend 10 bourbons under $50 and under 100 proof that I think all beginner bourbon drinkers should eventually get and try and add to their collection to be able to get into those higher proofers and enjoy the whiskeys and bourbons that we as bourbon lovers absolutely enjoy. But before we get into the bottles, I just want to thank you guys so much for the love and support. We are creeping and creeping and creeping closer to the 3,000 subscriber mark. And like I keep saying, at that 3,000 subscriber mark, I'm letting you know what the 5,000 subscriber giveaway is going to be. So if you're a brand new bourbon drinker, or if you've been a bourbon lover for so long and you just happen to find my channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button, because we are most likely, I'm going to give a little hint here, giving away a bottle of bourbon. I don't know, maybe we'll find out. But enough of that. Let's get into bottle number one. Now, this is going to be a list comprised from the cheapest to the most expensive. We're going under $50, so $50 is the max we can spend. But here at bottle number one, we are going to be spending $24. And bottle number one goes to the Benchmark Single Barrel. This is a bottle that I talk about a decent amount here on the channel, and I speak highly of this Benchmark Single Barrel. The Benchmark Full Proof, not so much, but this one right here, bottled at 95 proof, it's a very simple bourbon, but because you are a brand new bourbon drinker, you are going to find that one specific note that this bottle has. Now, I have had 2 bottles of this, and both of them have this beautiful, beautiful, sweet vanilla note in there. It's almost like a vanilla birthday cake batter in a way. You're gonna find this in here, and if you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you, because this right here is super, super pronounced. You're just gonna have to dive into that glass, sip it a little bit, smell it a little bit, and it will eventually come out to you, because this right here is a vanilla bomb, and that's all it is. But for $24, you just cannot go wrong with that. Bottle number 2 here, we're jumping up a couple of dollars. We're hitting $26. We're over that $25 mark, but we're well under that 30. And bottle number 2 goes to 1792 small batch. And as you can see, I have enjoyed this bottle very, very much. It is a really delicious pour. This 1792, it's got some oaky notes in there, but it is a well-balanced sweetness with a dark cherry in there that comes around very, very nicely with a lingering finish. This one's not bottled at 90 proof like a lot of those other small batch bourbons that a lot of those other distilleries put out all the time. This one's bottled a little bit higher. It's bottled at 93.7 proof, so you're getting a little bit more proof. You're enjoying a little bit more of what that bourbon should be, and I absolutely always recommend 1792 small batch for beginner bourbon drinkers. Bottle number 3, we're jumping up a little bit in price as well. We're jumping up a little bit more in proof, and we're also jumping up in bottle size, so you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck with this bottle, and that bottle goes to Early Times Bottled in Bond. Now, this is the blue cap. This one is the Sazerac, and if you do see the Brown Foreman ones with the black cap, I highly, highly recommend picking one of those up, because those, in my opinion, I have had a sample of that now, is a touch better than the Sazerac bottles. Now, the Early Times itself is really, really nice. It's a bottled in bond bottle. You know, it's at least 4 years old. It's hitting that 100 proof. It's one of those bottles that you might want to pick up to actually see if you enjoy a little bit higher of a proof bottle of bourbon. But this bottle is definitely one that I would always recommend for beginner bourbon drinkers. If you're looking for a nice mixer, this one is definitely going to be the one to go for, and it also comes in that liter bottle, so you just cannot go wrong with that. Bottle number 4, we are hitting that $30 mark. Some places might have it for a little bit cheaper. Some places will most likely have it for a little bit more. But here in the state of New Jersey, I have seen it regularly now on the shelves for $30, and that bottle goes to Buffalo Trace. Now, this is a 90 proofer. This one right here is specifically a store pick from Philadelphia. I don't have to talk about that much because you guys know how much I enjoy going to that store and picking up my bottles there because they have fantastic offerings. Buffalo Trace is the quintessential bourbon, and everybody says it. It is. It's got cherry, it's got maple, it's got a little bit of toffee, it's got caramel, it's got a little touch of an oak there on the back end, gives you a little bit of that hug being at 90 proof. It's an absolute delicious pour, and I will always recommend it to beginner bourbon drinkers. This was one of my absolute first bottles of bourbon. When I first started this bourbon journey, I actually hunted, and I didn't know what hunting was. I was hunting for this. I was searching all over, and I finally found a bottle for $30, and I always have a bottle of this on my shelf now because it's just that worth it. And bottle number 5 here, we're stepping up in age. We're stepping up in a little bit more pricey of a bottle, and that bottle goes to Russels Reserve 10-year. Now, if this video was shot about 6 months ago, this bottle wouldn't even be thought up of in my head because of how much I disliked this bottle. But that was because I had a bad batch. And you can go back on the channel and you can find that video about how bad and how much I absolutely despised the Russels Reserve 10-year. But now with this new label, I think the quality of the bourbon inside of this bottle is 10 times better than what it was. It is a very, very pleasant pour. Always recommend it. If people are looking for a nice bottle of bourbon, when I'm at a store and they're looking and there's other bottles not on that shelf, but they have a bottle of this on there, I am most of the time going to recommend the Russels Reserve 10-year, only if it has this red band on the bottle. Bottle number 6, we're jumping up in proof a little bit more from this 90 proofer. We're only jumping up $1 or $2 in price, and it's absolutely fantastic. Maker's Mark 46. Now this is the first wheated bourbon on this list, and it is one of my absolute favorite pours for one of those cheaper bourbons, lower proofed bourbons, being that it is finished in French oak staves. Adds a very, very complex flavor profile that you as a beginner bourbon drinker will come to enjoy. Now, I will always recommend the Penelope Architects over this because they're higher proof. Now, they do have the Maker's Mark 46 cask strengths, which is a dynamite of a bottle. But this right here, absolutely enjoyable pour for a beginner bourbon drinker. Bottle number 7. It's not a bourbon. It's not a rye. It's a boo rye. And that goes to Redwood Empire Lost Monarch. I've talked about this bottle many, many times on the channel and how much I absolutely enjoy this 90 proof bottle of bourbon. You have the complexity of so many different things coming into one happy little marriage inside of a bottle. You have this sweet bourbon, you have that dark, minty rye that sings like a wildfire inside of this bottle, but the bourbon that is blended with that rye brings everything down, mellows it out, and it brings it into this very, very nice sweetness lingering in that finish that I really enjoy out of this Redwood Empire Lost Monarch. And as a beginner bourbon drinker and you want to eventually step into ryes, this is always the bottle of Boo Rye that I recommend before you start getting into those ryes. This is my first bottle of something that had a little bit more of a rye influence, and I am starting to really enjoy rye whiskeys. Bottle number 8 is one that's a little bit different than anything here on this bar top. It's one that is toasted, and it's running you about $45, and you just cannot go wrong with it. Old Forester 1910 Old Fine Whiskey. This bottle is finished in a toasted oak barrel. It's barreled for a second time after it does its first aging process, and the amount of marshmallow you get out of this bottle is amazing to me. Absolutely delicious. Really, really good in an old fashioned. Really, really good by itself, and really, really pleasant over a large rock ball. Absolute dynamite of a bottle that you can have absolutely any way to enjoy your bourbon as a beginning bourbon drinker. This is definitely one that I will always recommend, and it is still under that $50 mark. And bottles number 9 and 10 are bottles that came out this year that I absolutely love. Every time I go back to them, I am enjoying them just as much or even more than I was the last time. Those bottles go to the Bardstown Origin Series. Now right here you have the high rye. Right here you have the bottled in bond wheated bourbon. So the High Rye, I've uploaded reviews on both of these bottles. I'll leave the descriptions down below to the reviews of both of these bottles if you haven't seen it already. I'll remind you one more time about this High Rye bourbon. This High Rye bourbon, absolutely delicious. It's got this chocolate malty note in there that reminds me of a chocolate malt shake that just brings me back to the boardwalk, brings me back to summertime enjoyment, brings you to fall. You know, you're getting ready to get into winter and you go to the ice cream shop one last time for that chocolate malt milkshake. Absolutely delicious pour. The wheated bourbon, however, wowzo. It's got this corn note in there that reminds me of like a buttered popcorn, but then it's got this earthy tone from that wheat in there that mellows it out a little bit, brings in a little bit more sweetness, a little more earthiness in there, but it is a immaculate pour of whiskey for under $50. Both of these bottles of bourbon are highly recommended by me for beginner bourbon drinkers. If you are willing to spend that $50 price point, these two should definitely be on your shelf. So there you guys have it. We have a wide range of bourbons. We do have a Boo Rye on the table, but these are the bourbons that I recommend for you beginner bourbon drinkers. If you are a bourbon lover in the comments, let me know down in the comments what you would recommend for new bourbon drinkers. These right here, I wanted to have a nice wide range of bourbons for somebody because sometimes some things aren't found in some liquor stores or in some states. Just like I can't find these in New Jersey. I have to be able to have a friend or travel to get these Bardstown bottles of bourbon. Same thing with the early times. Can't find it in New Jersey, gotta get a buddy or go travel to get this bottle. Other than that, most of these should be found in your local liquor store or in your state. So, until next time, this has been Nathan with The Everyday Drinker. Cheers.